Welcome to Overtime with Jared P. and Johnny O. We have a special guest, in studio with us, Dave Goren. He's a sports broadcasting legend. Been doing this for over 45 years, and we'll get into talk to him a little bit more here as the episode unfolds. And appreciate him joining us to get his insight on all things sports that we're going to talk about today. And we're going to get into the NBA Finals, Game 3 coming up tomorrow. We're talking a little bit about Aaron Rodgers, including some breaking news in his personal life that broke about 2 or 3 hours ago, which is surprising and not surprising when considering Aaron Rodgers. A little PGA, and then we're getting into maybe Dave Goren's take on sports broadcasting as it stands today and some of his experience with that as well. Maybe we can ask him what his Mount Rushmore of sports broadcasters are. Going to be thinking about that as well. But first, Johnny, our title sponsor.
We got Estate Jewelry and Loan. Something old, something new. Estate Jewelry has great selection of new and estate jewelry and can really find a nice, unique piece for any occasion. You can find Estate Jewelry at 2511 Battleground Ave and also at estatejewelryloan.com. And Salsarita's Fresh Mexican Grill, located in High Point at the Palladium and also in Greensboro at the Target Shopping Center on New Garden Road. He's got a food truck, catering, daily specials. And you can go to salsaritas.com to look at their menu. Go ahead.
All right, so we want to get into the NBA Finals. Game 3 is tomorrow night. The first game was very lowly rated, as many people suspected it would be. It was a nightmare, I think, for the NBA. If you said beginning of the year, hey, the finals will be between the Thunder and the Pacers, they're probably like, please, whatever we can do to make sure that doesn't happen. But oddly enough, Dave, not the lowest rated finals of all time. Lowest rated NBA finals of all time is during the bubble. They averaged about 7.5 million for the entire series. And there's some Spurs final games that were lower than this first 2 games, but not a lot of eyeballs, but pretty good basketball. At least the first game was good. What is your take on the NBA finals this year?
Well, I could probably speak more to the ratings than the actual on-court action. I am not a huge NBA fan anymore because I have become the guy who doesn't let anybody on his lawn. I grew up in Massachusetts with the Celtics I went to my first game in 1967, and I covered the team during the Celtics Showtime Lakers NBA Finals when I started in TV. Those teams ran a lot. I like motion in my sports, and they don't run anymore, or certainly not enough to suit my taste. And so I don't watch a whole lot. But I'm okay with ratings being low because you have 2 small market teams in the finals, and that's what you expect. It's math. It's simple math for the most part. You got SGA and you have Mr. Halliburton, and they're stars in their markets. I don't know if they are yet at the Jordan Bird Braun level. I don't think anybody would say they are. Maybe they will be in a year or 2 or 3, but and so if there's no compelling reason to watch for non-fans of those teams, your numbers are going to be smaller.
Yeah. No, these are 2 great teams. They really are, and well-deserving teams to be in the finals. But as far as small market, that's what you get. But now what you said, I agree with you. I miss, we're sort of at the age, Jared's a little younger than us. The Showtime LA Lakers, I was a huge Magic Johnson fan in that type of era, but I disagree a little bit, man. These 2 teams run and gun, and they actually they play a little motion offense. I mean, they involve everybody on the court. Not to say anything against what the New York Knicks were doing, because, Brunson was a one-man show, we've said this a few times on the shows lately. He'll keep the ball for 20 seconds of that 24-second clock. And then, if he doesn't get a shot, he tries to pass it. But these 2 teams run and gun, and they get everybody involved. And they're solid, and they're deep, and they're just, if you want to watch some good basketball, these two teams play really good basketball, and I've been very, very impressed. But I have a quick question for you. I don't think you guys are gonna be able to answer this question. Who's the coach for the OKC Thunder? What's his name? Right?
You win.
And that's a shame. I mean, I had to look it up. I know him, I see him, and all that, and I hear his name, but it's not a household name. But his name is Mark. Go ahead.
Who is it?
Mark Dagno. Okay, Dagno. He's got a weird spelling, but it's pronounced Dagno. He's been the OKC coach since 2020. Okay, 5 years. He's 40 years old. So, he's been a coach since he was 35. He went to UConn. He wasn't even a player at UConn. He was a student manager. And he's done one hell of a job with this OKC team. And I think that him being 40 years old and that team being so young, their average age is like 24, 25 years old. I think that has been a combination that's why they're the best team in the NBA right now.
Is it a bad thing that I can't name either head coach, but I can name both of their radio play-by-play guys? and I know Indiana's TV play-by-play guy, and I'm trying to think who Oklahoma City's is. I can name 3 out of the 4 main play-by-play guys.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, my gosh.
Well, Dave, you said that, you covered, when you were first starting out, probably one of the greatest probably basketball rivalry of all time. It is the greatest in the NBA, at least, Celtics, Lakers during the 80s. Do you have any Bird or Magic stories or any Boston stories from that time?
So I freelanced I got out of school in 1981, had trouble finding a job. I finally got into the NBC station in Providence, Rhode Island.
Let me interrupt for 1 second, Dave.
Go ahead.
Dave Goren went to Syracuse University, Jared. You are dealing with two Syracuse guys right now.
I'm sorry, Jared. I'm sorry.
No.
Well, then you should come to our awards banquet June 30th with Mike Tirico, Ian Eagle, Kevin McNamara from Providence,
Rosenthal,
a couple others who will be there. Noah Eagle will be there. It'll be obnoxious.
All Syracuse guys. That's the best broadcasting school you can go to, man.
And believe it or not, they let me in. Yeah, figure. So anyway, so I started my TV career in Providence. I did 1,100 hours for free over 9 months. They hired me part-time as an associate producer in sports. The weekend sports guy that I started with went to Boston, got a job there, and got me in there as a fill-in sports producer. So I was in Boston one day working, and the main sports producer, who is the sports director, said, Lakers are in town to play the Celtics either that night or the next night. He said, why don't you go to the Lakers hotel and see if you can get some interviews? And I'm going, I'll give it my best, but I can't imagine they're going to be walking around the hotel lobby. So I go, we're hanging out, looking for, Kurt Rambis or Magic or Kareem. There's nobody. And finally I said, I could tell my photographer is getting really itchy. I said, I have to say I tried, right? I go to the house phone, I pick it up. Irvin Johnson's room, please.
Oh, my God.
Ring, click. Hello? Yeah, Magic? Yeah. Are you sleeping? Yeah. Go back to bed. There's no way he was going to come down and talk to some at that point 25, 26-year-old TV guy.
Oh, my God.
That was interesting.
You got to talk to him. That's big. Yeah.
Oh, and I saw Michael's 63-point game in double overtime in the playoffs.
Go ahead.
I mean, just, it's like the career all of a sudden, how did 45 years go by that quickly? Jeez. And to look back at all the things I've gotten to cover, just think of all the greats in every sport.
Let me ask you this, Dave. Being at that game where George, right? When you saw George score 63,
Mhm.
Because, we have the benefit of hindsight. What were the thoughts at that time, the prevailing narrative about Jordan? Because he had not won anything at that point. He's a scoring machine.
But you could see it coming. And that was his, second year in the NBA? I think. 86 playoffs.
Yeah, probably was.
That was his second full year. And you remember he had been out for a while with a broken foot. And I remember he did an impromptu press conference. He had been out for a while, did an impromptu press conference at the old Boston Garden. I was sitting next to him on those really old wooden slat chairs, with my mic right here. And he announced he was coming back. So he survived that. I think that was the year before. But anyway, that game was double overtime. The Celtics won the game. So kind of overshadowed it a little bit. But you could see that they had next, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was Chicago and Detroit. Chicago and the Pistons were coming next, and there was just no doubt about that.
But was it?
Okay, let me ask you this.
Go ahead,
Johnny.
Was it a thrill? I mean, you're saying you're 25, 26 years old, and you're covering the Celtics in your home state. I mean, that had to have been. That's a memory and a half.
Yeah, and it's funny because I did 4 years between Providence and Boston, and finally, I was 28 when I moved here to the Triad, and it was comfortable because I had grown up there. I did everything but went to college in New England, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. But I found, speaking of hindsight, it's good to get out of your comfort zone. Because then I came here. Half the Big East followed me to the ACC, and and then I get to cover hockey here. And Gretzky when he was still playing when the Hurricanes first moved to Greensboro. The heyday of ACC basketball. We were almost guaranteed to go to the Final Four every year between Duke and North Carolina throughout the late 80s and throughout almost all the 90s into the 2000s. And then this unknown kid from the Virgin Islands shows up at Wake Forest, Tim Duncan, who I remember his Midnight Madness his freshman year. No one knew who he was. He was the least heralded recruit of that class. And then Chris Paul comes, and he will go down. He will by far hold the record for assist to turnover ratio, and it's not. I think last time I checked, John Stockton may have been second, and it wasn't even really close.
Yeah.
And so to have covered these guys, it's pretty cool. You go to a Super Bowl with the Panthers, Game 7. See the Hurricanes win the Stanley Cup in Raleigh in 2006. I moved here the same year the Charlotte Hornets started, so kind of in ground floor with them, and watching Muggsy Bogues and Larry Johnson, and doing playoff games both in Charlotte, and they played the Celtics, going back to Boston to see them play the Celtics, and so I've been spoiled. All the great golfers, Arnold Palmer, you got to interview him, and Jack Nicklaus and those guys, Tiger Woods. Pretty cool.
Speaking of Tiger Woods, our morning show, you talk about how you called and tried to get Magic Johnson on the phone, but Tiger Woods came to the Wyndham. The one time he came to the Wyndham, we did a prank where we sent our stunt guy to go find Tiger Woods. We did find out somebody from the hotel tipped us off, and we knew where he was staying. And we got right up to Tiger Woods' door. He knocked on the door, and you heard Tiger Woods say, "Who is it?" And then security came and dragged our guy off. And then the Wyndham demanded that they demanded we delete the audio, which I was surprised we actually did because we don't normally do that. But it was a great stunt. It's a great stunt. We got to Tiger Woods to his door at the time. But who were you most nervous interviewing? Like, you've talked to all these huge sports stars, but like when you're actually going up to talk to them, who was most intimidating?
It's a good question. I think my first time in the New England Patriots locker room was intimidating. Not any one person, but they were just so huge. And asking tough questions to some. I mean, I remember when Leon Gray was a really good offensive lineman for the Patriots, and there was another offensive lineman named Dwight Wheeler, and he was huge. And I remember one of the Boston papers that morning said he had graded out better than All-Pro Leon Gray. And I interviewed Dwight Wheeler. It's like, well, what do you think about that? That they're saying you've graded out better than an All-Pro. Where'd you see that? He looked, the papers in his locker, and I said, I think it was in the Boston Herald this morning. You couldn't find it anywhere. Well, I'm not going to comment on that. Like, okay. When Bob Knight came to Greensboro to do state high school coaches clinic there, that was he's a little bit intimidating. But I've been around him. I was around him at the '87 Final Four in New Orleans when they beat Syracuse.
Yeah,
and then he was here
taking shot. Ouch, ouch, and ouch. Thanks for reminding me of that.
And he was here in 2007 with Texas Tech, and was here with Indiana. He's supposed to play Dean Smith when Dean Smith broke the all-time record, but Indiana lost. And my former coworker at WXI, Dan Rath, saw Bob Knight in the parking lot. It was raining, and offered him a ride back to his hotel downtown. He said, "That's okay, I'll walk." He thanked him.
I was just going to ask you if that's a true story about Bob Knight walking from the arena back to the hotel, and that's a true story.
It is, in fact. So when he was here with Texas Tech in 2007, the day before press conference, I asked him about it. I said, "Last time you were here, when you lost, you walked back to the hotel in the rain. Is that something?" And I basically put that ball up on the tee for him. I said, "Is that something you do regularly?" "What? You Yankees can't? We're not allowed to walk to the?" And he went on, and they actually. ESPN used that clip on SportsCenter that night.
Oh my gosh,
it was pretty funny. But he was a guy, and I always kind of liked him because he was a really smart guy, obviously with issues. But when he left the stage that day, as he was leaving the stage that day, he said, "And there's one more thing. You guys don't know how lucky you were to have Mary Garber working for the Winston-Salem Journal." And he went on to pay tribute to her because she probably cut him down to size when.
Yeah.
But they were both big fans and good friends of Big House Gaines, so they had that in common. So it was cool to see that kind of mutual respect.
Now, were you covering the Patriots in the late '80s when Dick McPherson went and coached them for a little while?
No, he came. I think so. I moved here in '88, so that when they got pounded by the Bears in the Super Bowl in '87, after they had a good '86 season. They exercised a bunch of demons. They had one in Miami forever. And I remember was coming back from the AFC Championship game, and they would fly into the Providence Airport, which is actually in Warwick, Rhode Island. So that was just and we would always cover the team plane when they would come home on Sunday nights, most of them half in the bag, and get to interview them on the tarmac and be the only media there, which is had some fun interactions with players a couple times. But I'll never forget, there were 10,000 people at the airport. I was up on top of a live truck going live, and there were people throwing beer and I got splashed with every alcohol known to man. And I couldn't hear yourself think. But it was fun, When you're in your 20s, that's fun. But I miss
right.
McPherson came to Syracuse the year I graduated. So he came before I graduated, but I didn't get to be there when he coached. And then he came to the Patriots after I left New England as well.
Yeah. Good stuff. That's so.
See the difference between me and Johnny? I said the difference between me and Johnny. I don't know if I'm cutting in and out, but like I ask questions about Bird and Jordan, and you ask questions about some obscure Patriots and Syracuse coach. We're just different. It's okay.
Now wait a minute. Dick McPherson.
I don't know if I'm breaking up or whatever. But yeah.
Well, real quick, just to confirm this, I know it's a long time ago, but Dick McPherson led Syracuse to an undefeated season in 1987, 11-0-1. They tied Auburn in the Sugar Bowl.
Pat Tye.
And remember they sent him a bunch of ugly ties or whatever. But and then the following year, I guess, or the year after that, he went to the New England Patriots. He was a great coach, great ambassador of Syracuse, actually. So he's a well-known name if you're our age, Jared. So
Jared's smart. He just left that
Oh,
one
okay.
alone.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Before we get into some of the PGA and some, I do want to ask. Yeah, it's like, all right, you guys win. I'm outnumbered for sure. Before we get to some of the PGA things, and then also we do want some sportscaster, Hall of Fame type things. Some of his things he's accomplished in his career, but also made his Mount Rushmore of maybe even TV sports broadcasters or radio sports, whatever you find to be the best. Always find that fascinating. We do want to thank some of our other sponsors. We have Surf Hippie Fishing, surfhippiefishing.com for all your fishing needs, whether it's tournaments, gear, and more. Surf Hippie Fishing with a PH. We have Elite Performance Chiropractic, former NFL player and guest on the show. Jeremy Phillips is the chiropractor there, and it gets you back better than ever. Johnny?
And we got Schenck and Torrance Insurance, located in Greensboro, but they serve the entire Triad and state. Brian he specializes in personal insurance, including auto, homeowners, and life insurance. He's done my insurance for over 20 years. You can reach him at 336-310-1320. And Tee It Up Indoor Golf on Battleground Ave. Davis Troxler has 3 new simulators, and he's got a choice of over 100,000 golf courses to play inside, and he serves beers and soft drinks, and you can order food and all that kind of good stuff. And he's got a full line of golf store as well. And Imperial Marketing Solutions, sale of equipment, sales of new reconditioned computer IT hardware. Reconditioned equal to brand new. Jimmy Snow gives a 3-year warranty. Out-of-state drop shipping, payment terms available, and you can reach Jimmy Snow at 315-345-8349. Jared, you got a little delay, I think.
You got everybody?
Yep.
All right, Johnny. I don't know what's going on. I just checked my camera to see if it was something was going on, but it's I don't know. I'm going to take a nap while you two guys talk about golf, but go ahead.
We could both take a nap.
Oh no, you're not a golf guy?
I am not.
Okay.
I used to get so here's my my personal golfing story. I played twice in the same week with my best friend in my hometown at my hometown municipal course. The year before I moved to North Carolina, those stand as the only 2 times I have ever played golf on a real golf course. And the sad part of that is, during my TV sports career, I would often be offered comps to play on some of the nicest courses in the world.
Send them my way, Dave, please.
I will from now on.
Well, let me be real brief. I got to at least mention the U.S. Open coming up. It's at Oakmont Country Club, and I got a couple of tidbits that are very interesting that I even think Jared might be interested in this. It's that interesting. It's the 125th U.S. Open, and this place they've had 10. This is the 10th U.S. Open they've had at this place, and it's considered the toughest golf course in the world, actually, and it's right outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Kind of built for U.S. Open. So demanding layout, thick rough, fast greens. But here's the kicker. Listen to this, Jared. You would think you would do good at this golf course. No trees on the golf course. Okay, but the rough.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I'm horrible. Yeah.
But the rough, okay, you got beautiful fairways. The rough is 5 or 6 inches deep, and that ball just gets swallowed up by it if you don't hit the fairway with these guys. And the sand traps and the greens are fast as hell. These guys, which you might see, usually a winner of a tournament's like 12 under, 15 under, sometimes even over 20 under par throughout the whole tournament. They're predicting that the winner will be 6 or 7 shots over par, and that'll be the winner. That's how difficult this golf course is.
I'm sure those golfers will all be extremely happy.
Well,
oh, yeah. So, but that's all. And my picks are in my top 5 real quick. Scotty Scheffler, of course. Please just bet money on him. We'd be stupid if we didn't. But look out for Colin Morikawa and Bryson DeChambeau. They might be able to conquer that course, but we shall see.
Can't go wrong with Scotty Scheffler.
No.
All right, let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers signed with the Pittsburgh. Yeah, with the of course. Before we move on to Aaron Rodgers, I do want to ask you this, Dave, as someone that has covered sports for so long. Tiger Woods obviously was a phenom, and in the casual, even non-golf fans would watch. Scotty Scheffler, to me, is going on one of those Tiger Woods type runs. I mean, not to that level. It just seems like he doesn't really garner any interest or ratings. Is there something that the PGA can do to infuse some excitement into a guy that is currently dominating the sport?
I think you have to spend a little money and market him if that's what you want to do. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of push and pull with if you're marketing one guy and there are hundreds who play on a regular basis, that may create some ill will. I mean, there was ill will toward Tiger because he got all the attention. But I think you just have to, put him out there. And maybe he doesn't want to be out there. But, it's like Charles Barkley saying, we aren't role models. Well, you are. And because of what you do, you are out there. So, and it actually, the rising tide lifts all boats. So you might as well, I almost mixed that metaphor, didn't I? Badly. You might as well, be the face of your sport. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of like Caitlin Clark. It seemed like the WNBA was a little late on embracing her. And then going into this season, I mean, she got hurt. But going into this season, it's Caitlin Clark all the time. I mean, she's like national TV every week until she got hurt. And, I think the PGA should do the same. I'm not a PGA fan, but it seems like it's a major missed opportunity. People like dominance. You like the underdog, but when somebody's really dominating, it's fun to watch. Like, can he do it again? So, yeah, I think what you said is exactly right. All right, Aaron Rodgers. Johnny?
Well, he finally signed with the Steelers. I'm not a big Aaron Rodgers guy, 41-year-old prima donna. And, he kind of held the Steelers in check for the past, 3 or 4 months on if he's going to play or not. And now I hear, as I'm looking him up, that he got married a month or two ago. He kept that silent to a wife that the name is unconfirmed. I mean, this guy's something else, man. But her name might be Brittany. So, is it Britney Spears? I don't know. We'll see. But he is something else. Dave, give me a little something on this guy. Make me, respect him a little bit.
I'll give you a good book. Ian O'Connor's book on Aaron Rodgers, which came out last year. Really good insight into him. I mean, he's a very cerebral guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be the star of the show. He just wants to be left alone to do it. But again, you're playing in the NFL, right? But I would recommend that book highly. It was a really good read, and he started at a junior college. I mean, he had a fight to be a starter in high school, and then he had to go to junior college because he didn't get many offers. Then he ends up at Cal, noted college football power, and nobody knew who he was, basically. I mean, you play out west, nobody knows who you are to a large degree anyway, just because 3/4 of the country is asleep when you're playing on Saturday nights. But, he's a really, really good football player, and if he can stay healthy and has an offensive line, even at age 41, I mean, Tom Brady did it. I put him in that same class as Tom Brady, minus a few championships.
All right. Well, you didn't sell me yet. I'm not sold.
This is an objective point of view coming from a guy who grew up 20 minutes from Foxborough.
But
right. Well, Johnny, how about this? Maybe I can sell you a little bit on it. maybe for Dave as a sports broadcaster, as a broadcaster and reporter, and then I like the fact that Aaron Rodgers gives you something. He gives you something to talk about. He will go on, Pat McAfee, or he did. He gives interviews. He says things that sometimes like, why would he say that? But I'd rather have that than the Tom Brady at the Patriots when he was so scripted. I like Tom Brady much better. Went to the Buccaneers and seemed to loosen up. We saw more of his personality. I'd much rather have an Aaron Rodgers who gives you something to talk about than someone who gives you nothing to talk about. So to me, I love that from at least what we do for a living with, our opinions and having opinionated based podcasts and morning show and different things. I'd rather have a guy that is a little out there, a little different. It makes you want to pay attention more. Johnny, what do you think?
Now, I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
No, that's a great point, Jared. And he is out there. There's no doubt about it. You hit it right on the nose. That man is out there. And for him, I'm hearing what Dave said, doesn't want to be the star of the show, man. That I got to question that just a little bit, just because if I turn on ESPN Get Up, the show with Greenberg, and every morning it's either the Cowboys or Aaron Rodgers, and I think he loves that, but I might be totally wrong, and that's what media kind of throws that at you. You believe what you see and what you hear, and then go from there. So it's all very interesting, but I agree. He gives us a lot to talk about because we talk about him a lot on this show.
And Jared, by the way, Tom Brady did do a morning show in Boston. I think it was Monday morning or Tuesday morning, like every week through football season, the whole time he was there just about. So, and he was much less guarded on that show than what we've seen. So I had to stick up for him a little bit.
Well, that's good. That's good.
He's the GOAT.
Well, I like Tom. I hated Tom. I'm not an anti-Patriot. You live long enough, things change, come full circle. Like I hated the Patriots because of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. And, of course, they won all the time. And now I'm a Tar Heel fan, so I'm excited to have Bill Belichick, and I love Tom Brady now. So, things have a way of, when he left the Patriots, I love this guy. But anyway.
Well, I think Tar Heels took –
So with sports, when it comes to broadcasting, do you have like a Mount Rushmore, Dave, of maybe sports broadcasters, either TV or radio?
Probably the guys I grew up respecting, and that certainly can change. But now I have to kind of be objective, political about it because I represent an organization that honors all these guys. So I don't want to short shrift anybody. But the guys who I think were the gold standard for me in like the previous generation, I would say, Keith Jackson, Al Michaels, Bob Costas. God, who would be the Teddy Roosevelts? There's so many other good ones.
Cosell?
Howard Cosell.
Pat Summerall? No.
Pat was good. I don't know if I would Rushmore him.
Madden?
Madden more of an analyst. So I kind of gravitate toward the play-by-play guys and for my here's another one, Dan Patrick, although he's still kind of contemporary. Like Costas and Patrick, for my money, are the two best interviewers in the last 50 years. Yeah. And then Jackson and Al Michaels are probably the gold standard of play-by-play.
Oh, yeah.
I'll live with those four.
They're fantastic. My three tops radio guys. You mentioned Dan Patrick. Dan Patrick is, I think, in a class by himself as far as radio. I think the way he interviews, the way he talks to these guys and gets information out of them, he's the best.
You know what though, Johnny? I thought when he had his show on ESPN, I didn't like it. I thought it was too much about him, and I think having the Danettes with him now, gives him a perfect foil and I think that makes the whole show, that byplay that we have. And so, but now I agree with you. I don't know that there's any better. I also like Colin Cowherd a lot because
he's my number two guy, Colin.
He makes you think about things. I'll never forget. I was driving back from Indiana one time, and he was talking about it was NBA ratings had gone down, and he was saying it's because men cull from their sports tree. And it's nothing I ever thought of. He said, when you're young, like I knew more about sports when I was in high school than I do after a 50-year media career. And I could tell you, I had high school classmates who would joke, you could probably tell me who's leading the Pacific Coast League in batting, and I could. And now I can't tell you, who the head coaches of the Pacers and Thunder are. But he said, when you're young, you have time to pay attention to everything. And as you get married or have a girlfriend or then you have kids, then all of a sudden all that time isn't your own. Yeah. And you have to cull from your sports tree. And I thought that was a really an insightful theme that he brought up.
So true, my God. And that's what I mean. He's Coward is so sharp. But what do you think? I think he's the funniest guy too, man. I mean, he's got a lot of good humor, some of his lines that actually compare with my third guy, Jim Rome. I thought Romey was one funny guy that I don't listen to him that much anymore, but when I was traveling for sales, I mean, I was listening to him on a daily basis and enjoying the hell out of him.
Yeah. Well, he kind of changed the game a little bit, right?
Yeah.
The guys who are trendsetters, as long as it's not just shtick, you have to have something that lasts. And so those guys all have, and they've done very well.
Good stuff. Well, you want to, Dave, why don't you just tell us a little bit what's coming up on the 29th and 30th of this month, and we'll call it a show.
Yeah, well, it's the 65th NSMA Awards. Thanks to COVID, we no longer say annual, which saves me about 10,000 keystrokes on the computer every year. I don't have to type it anymore. So the 29th, we will just have a little welcome reception. We have both living Hall of Famers, Mike Tirico and Dan Shaughnessy of the Boston Globe will be here. Chuck Jones, whose dad, Charlie Jones, the late Charlie Jones, is going to the Hall of Fame. Chuck and his sister, Julie, will be here. And then our national winners, Ian Eagle, sportscaster, and Ken Rosenthal, sports writer, will both be here. We have the Big House Gaines Awards winners, Dennis Gates from Missouri and Tyrese Brown, who's the women's coach at Fayetteville State. Our Jim Nance Award winner, Jack Smith, who just graduated from Southern Cal, and he's already doing play-by-play in the Carolina League with the Fredericksburg, Virginia team. Our Woody Durham Voice of College Sports Award, Ray Goss of Duquesne, who's been doing play-by-play there since, speaking of the Showtime Lakers, since Norm Nixon played there in the 70s. And then, who am I leaving out? Our Lifetime Achievement Award winner, Doug Rice from PRN, long NASCAR career and former NSMA board member from Salisbury, will be there as well. And at last check, I think we have about 45 of our state sportscasters and sports writers of the year coming. So that'll be a lot of fun. Some of them are coming in a little early. I think somebody's coming in Friday, even though we don't get started until Sunday. Monday, we have a feedback session. So any student or young professional who wants to bring their demo reel or clip file can play it or show it to a veteran professional, and they'll get one-on-one or small group feedback. Where was this when I was in college? and then 12:30, we start our Convergence Summit panels. So we have four basically hour-long panels, like Mike Tirico and Lydia Craver, who's the sports editor from the Charlotte Observer, are doing one. Dan Shaughnessy and Ken Rosenthal are doing another on reporting. We have one on podcasts, doing it yourself from podcast to play-by-play. And then what's my other one? And then paying your dues, which is, it's mainly geared towards students and young professionals, but we get, our winners show up to sit in there, and anybody who wants to pay and come can pay and come. And then we will have our reception from 5 to 6 o'clock on Monday the 30th. And then we'll go right into our awards banquet, starts at 6. And I'll tell you what, I've been in this business pretty much my whole life. To be in that room on Monday night is something I don't take for granted. It is pretty special to be in there with all those people, because there have been times I've looked around during the reception with 300 people in the lobby. And I remember one year it was, hey, there's Bob Costas over there, and there's Dick Vitale, and there's John Skipper when he was president of ESPN. There's Chris Berman. What the heck am I doing here? But it's cool. And, I'm very grateful that to a person, everyone who has come has been grateful for the honor. Some people come back just to participate in those panels or the feedback sessions to give back. Chuck Cooperstein, the radio guy from the Dallas Mavericks, who won the Texas Sportscaster of the Year award 3 years ago, came back last year. He's coming back again this year to help out and to give back. And kind of the gratifying part of being able to give back to the industry in which I've earned my living.
And that's all at Grandover?
Grandover Resort and Spa - a Wyndham Grand Hotel.
Oh, no.
Sunday the 29th and Monday the 30th.
Nice.
So,
all those, Jared, if you heard him, all those stats Dave was just throwing out about all these sportscasters, it was like he was back in high school that knew all the stats in the Pacific League, man. This is your game now.
And I tell, like, the wives are amazed how I remember their names. And I said, you realize by this time I have typed your name 17,000 times. So I know who goes who. I know hopefully the faces. That can be hard, depending on how old the headshot is we put in the program last week. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Jared, why don't you close us out, my man?
Well, appreciate you, Dave, coming on. I love hearing people that have had distinguished careers, and then you've done everything. You've met a lot of people and continued success. And I appreciate, you take some time with us. And, I would definitely, if you don't already have it, maybe a podcast award, sports podcast award. Sure, we'll take the first one. It's fine if you haven't done it already. If you need to get that going, but
it's in the pipeline. It's
already a big part of the future.
It's in the pipeline, and just want to thank you guys both very much for having me on. I enjoyed the chat. It went by like that.
You got it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Just like that. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.